Dracula, or more specifically, Bram Stoker's Dracula. The Count has never had his first name revealed. He is simply known as the Count Dracula, a centuries-old vampire, sorcerer, and Transylvanian nobleman. He rules over his namesake palace, Castle Dracula, and his ultimate aim was to expand his dominion through to England. It is well known that the Count Dracula character was based on a real-life figure. Bram Stoker based this character upon the historical Prince Vlad III, famously known as Vlad The Impaler. And in the story itself, the characters ponder that they might somehow be linked, or are likely to be one and the same. Contrary to the vampires of Eastern European folklore, which are portrayed as repulsive, corpse-like creatures, Dracula exudes a veneer of aristocratic charm, which masks his unfathomable evil. Being depicted as hideous and corrupting, yet irresistibly seductive, he is widely regarded as a metaphor of vice, deprivation, and illicit sex. In the book, the Count is described in some detail. Dracula's face was a strong, very strong, aquiline, with high bridge of the thin nose and peculiarly arched nostrils, with lofty domed forehead, and hair growing scantily around the temples, but profusely elsewhere. His eyebrows were very massive, almost meeting over the nose, and with bushy hair that seemed to curl in its own profusion. The mouth, so far as I could see it under the heavy moustache, was fixed and rather cruel looking, with peculiarly sharp white teeth. These protruded over the lips, whose remarkable ruddiness showed astonishing vitality in a man of his years. For the rest, his ears were pale and at the tops extremely pointed. The chin was broad and strong, and the cheeks firm, though thin. The general effect was one of extraordinary pallor. As Dracula is said to be hundreds of years old, he has acquired a wealth of knowledge through these years, and he is described as an expert scholar with immense knowledge in many scientific fields, including alchemy. After becoming a vampire, he became a master of sorcery and necromancy. While his powers were later regarded as standard abilities for a vampire, the novel notes that he is exceptionally powerful and gifted, even for a vampire. As such, what abilities are his and his alone, and what are common abilities for a vampire, do remain unclear. Some of his powers, like the ability to turn into elemental dust in the moonlight, would not appear to be a common attribute for vampires. Interestingly, despite his immense power, he needs to be invited to enter in an inhabited area. But as long as he has this invitation, he can appear there out of nowhere. He can also enter through cracks as small as a hair. However, he would be trapped in his vault should a wild flower be placed upon it. He is repelled by holy symbols, he cannot cross a barrier made of holy wafers, and he cannot cross running waters like rivers, unless of course the tide is at its highest or at slack levels. Finally, he must rest on the soil of his place of rebirth on a regular basis to sustain his powers. Such characteristics are common with vampires. Dracula, like all vampires in the novel, can be repelled by a religious symbol like a cross or by garlic. Sunlight does not harm him, but he is notably weaker and unable to use his powers during the day. Should the sun rise after he has shapeshifted, he would not be able to change for the whole day. As such, the protagonists are able to hold their own in battle against him during daytime, while they admit though they would not stand a chance by night. Vampires can be destroyed by being incinerated, immersed in running water, shot with a sanctified bullet, by being beheaded, or by having their heart pierced. While the most common method to pierce their heart is by using a wooden stake, iron blades can also be used, in reference to the myths where iron harms supernatural beings, of course. However, the adaptations do tend to neglect this notion, and more often than not, all we see is the wooden stake. Dracula is as strong, fast, and spry as 20 men. He can see in complete darkness and crawl across walls like a lizard. He can alter his aspects and features at will, though he needs to drink blood to rejuvenate and regain his youthful appearance. He is also able to change his size to an unknown extent. Dracula can shapeshift into almost any kind of feral beast and lower critter, like wolves, dogs, bats, rats, and others. He is also able to turn into mist and elemental dust in the moonlight. On top of that, he is said to be able to control the weather to conjure storms, mist, wind, and rain at will, and to mesmerize people through eye contact or his mere presence. All feral beasts and critters around will obey his every command. And finally, he can control corpses and shares a psychic link with the vampires that he sired. He can command them and gain access to their mind, but the process can be reversed. Dracula is noted for having been an exceptionally brave, noble, and admirable man during his lifetime, but now he is a cruel, heartless, and vicious predator. He is as suave and refined and sophisticated as he is cruel and evil. He is unfailingly polite to people he interacts with, though such courtesy is mostly a feigned interest. He is very proud and haughty, considering the protagonist's attempts futile, and reacts with scathing spite when thwarted. However, he is also cautious and becomes increasingly wary of them following their progress. He is noted for being immensely intelligent and knowledgeable, of course with centuries of experience and learning. He prepared his plot with the utmost care, devising counters of all possible troubles, adding more credence to the theory that he may have been the known tactician Vlad the Impaler. Interestingly enough, it is stated that if another vampire had tried the same plot, they would have failed. He can quickly adapt to new cultures and situations, and proves especially cunning during his skirmishes with the protagonists. He knows how to cover his tracks and to create false leads, as well as to purposefully misguide his foes to escape them. And of course he learns from his mistakes. However, immortality somehow stunned his development. Hence Van Helsing referring to his intelligence as childlike. Indeed, he will first rely on external help before figuring that he can do better on his own, and he needs to experience a situation to fully grasp it. This being a potential after effect of being undead for so long. It must be noted that the most iconic portrayals of the Count depict him as a black-haired, clean-shaven, middle-aged man, which is in stark contrast with the old man sporting a mustache of the novel. Also, many adaptations make the Count a more fleshed out, three-dimensional character. Some make him an anti-hero who laments his curse and longs for respite. And some even give him a romance with Mina, the latter being most common. In spite, of course, of the enormous popularity of the latter, one must insist on the fact that in the novel, Mina loathes the Count, despises the Count. And although she does wish to save the soul of the great man he once was, she also wants to see the vampire destroyed as much as the other protagonists. The amount she despises the Count also causes her to break down in despair when she herself is infected with vampirism. She is revolted by the prospect of becoming one of his brides. As mentioned, the novel does not shy away from exploring the Count's origins. In fact, the Count claims to be descended from Attila the Hun. He inhabits a decaying castle in the Carpathian Mountains near the Borgo Pass. In his youth, he studied the black arts at the Academy of Scholomance in the Carpathian Mountains, overlooking the town of Sibayu and becoming proficient in alchemy and magic. Later, he took up a military profession, combating the Turks. This is, of course, according to Abraham Van Helsing. Using the black arts, Dracula returned from death as a vampire and lived for several centuries in his castle, with his 3 vampire wives for company. He is immensely wealthy, always carrying wads of banknotes and gold coins with him. being able to buy many luxurious estates like an afterthought, and hire or bribe anyone he likes. Bram Stoker's Dracula is arguably the most famous of all vampire depictions, and rightfully so. The changes that were made from the novel to some of the adaptations are again quite interesting, but personally I prefer the idea that Dracula is simply evil, the most repugnant and repulsive evil there is, hidden behind a veil of sophistication and a certain alluring demeanour. To me, it makes for a much more interesting character. And of course I ask you, is the Count among one of your top-rated horror characters of all time? As overdone as vampires are, a remake or retelling of Bram Stoker's Dracula is certainly something I would not turn down. I also think it has the potential to breathe new life into that type of movie. As always though, please do let me know all your thoughts down below in the comment section, and if you did enjoy this video then please consider leaving it a like and subscribing to the channel for more in the future. If you want to interact with me, see what I'm up to in my daily life, then check out my Twitter and Instagram at Mr. H Reviews. As always though, I've been Mr. H, and until next time, I will catch you in the comment section.